Morning, good evening, and hope you're staying warm out there. I'm Alan IHOLDSHIFT down in Frio.
And I'm Austin Visions Neil.
This, of course, is the Diffuse, and well, we're gonna have a hard time getting this fuse lit today because apparently it's just cold everywhere. I don't know if you've
It
heard
is.
this, but everywhere's cold. Not even just like your
I
neck of the
know.
woods, not just my neck of the woods, not just Texas. Apparently, it's snowing in Mexico. What is going on right
Dude,
now?
I don't know, man. All kinds of weird things going on, Alan. My feet, I can't even get them warm right now up north. So it's a struggle. I got a blanket wrapped up. I mean, I'm just trying to get to the show, get through the topics. We'll see how it comes along.
That's totally fair. I mean, I'm not gonna lie to you. So we're supposed to be expecting ice tonight, is what the
Oh
kind of the
boy.
scare is. Now you got to keep in mind that I live largely in a community full of retirees. It's just the way it goes. So they overreact to every little thing that happens weather related. It's just the way it always goes. There was a hurricane that came through like last year, I think, and it was like, oh, the hurricane's gonna come, it's gonna flood everything. It was a little windy that day.
Just a bit.
But like the stores were sold out. It's just the way that it goes. I don't know, man. This is people out here are a different breed. That's all I know. Let's dig in because, well, there's surprisingly not a lot to talk about, if we're being honest here, because of the fact that we've
That's
got
fair.
this winter weather problem that's going on. But we got to go and talk about what's happening in the Challengers League season because there were a lot of
Mhm.
things coming into today that required our attention. There was the
Yes.
ability for teams to flip up who was number one, who was number two, who was maybe in that instant playoff kind of lock. But beyond that, also teams that had a little bit of trouble maybe locking themselves to get to the knockout bracket and avoid relegation, Singularity being one of them.
This was interesting, Alan, because I had high hopes of Singularity coming in towards this. I felt like they weren't going to be, like a top two team per se, but I definitely thought they were going to be able to hang around maybe three or four and be able to surprise and upset a couple of these
Right.
squads that we do have in European. I think that was really the factor for us. So the fact that we get Singularity that just come online and just do what we kind of expected them to do at the beginning is exceptional for not only, them, but the fans. I mean, let's be honest, Singularity, they got a big pull for as far as the fan base over there in Europe. So this was a big win for them for as far as the day and being able to also, show a pretty strong showing up against Orglis with a nice series. It felt like everything had come together here for them. I was a little bit shocked that it came out now because I was almost writing the squad off because it
Yeah.
felt like we were talking about, man, like, do they have to start switching things up? Like, do you have to add someone in here? Like, what is going on with the squad?
Well, especially considering the fact that, we'll talk about this here in a moment. A lot of the teams that are above them did make those kind of last swap ups as we got through that fifth cup going into the elite qualifiers. But Singularity, they came into today, they needed to beat Trainhard. Again, that was the Gangsters team, now picked up by Trainhard. It was only a matter of time, I felt like, for a lot of them. But that's a tough opponent to go up against because that at the time was the number one team that was in Europe. So they had to beat Trainhard, and boy did they. They found themselves a 3-0. And this is of course coming off their 3-0 from yesterday where they beat Team 3G. So Singularity with two solid wins back to back, that allows them a chance to get out of the relegation period. And actually, we'll talk about how
Yes.
Starth here in a moment, but I just don't know if this is enough for me to change my opinion on Singularity as a total squad.
That's fair because this is just one day, right? It's one day they had a
Right.
good showing. Was it the map pool? Was it the veto system? There's a lot to take in because it's kind of hard to have a lot of faith, I think, in one squad just off of one showing. And it's like, okay, let's see what they can do consistently now. It's like, this is something they can certainly build off of. But I think I'm in the same boat with you where I'm not convinced. I don't see them running through every single other team that we have within European teams right now. So I think it's fair to say that, they're probably still going to have to prove something going in towards their matches before we can say, all right, now we believe in Singularity and they can absolutely start to get some of these dubs. So I'm in the same boat as you for sure. But as we do, I mean, look at House Tarth here, Alan. This was, I think, one of the biggest surprises. And I'm sure you maybe have a similar take because I think that we were looking at this roster thinking, damn, like beginning of the year, these guys are looking good. Not only that, but they're the only squad that we do have in Europe right now that has more than one cup win. And
Yeah.
they came in with the first one. They came in with, I think it was either the third or fourth one that they were looking really solid as well. Just kind of going through the competition, relying a lot on their respawns because that's where you look at those four guys and you say, damn, like this just screams slaying power. But for whatever reason, they just have not been able to lock up series wins.
For me, it's one of those things that I was so excited to see the storyline initially of would Afro and would Gizmo be as good as they are this year
Yes.
as they were last year. That was the big question mark for me. And they came out and said, yes, indeed, we are Shift. We're actually carrying this team right now. And largely kind of watching them play, I don't put a lot on Afro or Gizmo. I think that the roster as a whole, not going to point any fingers at anybody, is just in a
Sure.
bit of a compositional problem where they
Yeah.
don't really have like that one standout, like, oh, this guy is going to take over a game up front. You know, they don't have that Venom SMG player or that Paul AR player. There are moments where all of them look individually good, but it just feels like watching them in this elite circuit and the handful of times that we have had a chance to do that, there hasn't been that full cumulative effort. And I think it would lead us to kind of maybe figure that there should be, if there not already is, a potential roster swap coming up because now they've been relegated. I mean, that's
Hmm.
so surprising. This is the initial
That is
winner from
very.
the European Cup. They did it in pretty convincing fashion. I don't think they've missed the top 8 yet in the challenger scene when it comes to the cups overall. I might be
Yeah, I
mistaken,
don't
but
think so.
I don't think they have. So this is just such a weird collapse. You feel like for them to get relegated here.
I mean, it's just so hard to find the words to say like man, like this is a squad that I really thought that was going
For
to be
real.
top two. I thought they're going to be top two. They're not, and yeah, now they're just going to have to probably look at something different for as far as what they're coming in towards the next stage with in the qualifier. So a little bit strange for us, but top two EU. I mean, that gives us our
Oh,
top two here for us, man, and just again like surprised, but at the same time these names at the very least coming off of what was last year here for us, there is a lot of talent here in towards the top two, and this is just going to show here again what Europe is really bringing for as far as their talent pool within the amateur scene, because everything is up for grabs. And I think that both of these squads really just kind of got their way towards the top through just actually putting together their teamwork and really being able to show strength within multiple game modes and not just be one trick ponies by any means. But I mean, you look at some of these guys, right? You have Nasty here on this squad for Orglis, who was kind of not getting his opportunity last year that he was looking towards with London. Now has a chance to be able to prove himself, is at the top, looking to try and make his mark, get himself back towards the CDL. And then you have Trained Hard here with Hydra, where he gets lent over towards this squad because he can't get over towards New York at the moment. And everything is coming together for these guys as well. So these are the two EU squads that I did not expect to be top two, but simply are and have been able to showcase that through just excellent matches in all their series here the past 2 weeks.
I'm very excited about Train Hard, I think, more than anything else. You mentioned the fact that you've got Hydra who's still playing here. I kind of had a feeling with the COVID world still being a thing that it was going to be difficult to expect that he was going to immediately be on over and be a
Right.
part of the New York Subwater's roster, even if they did want to try to make him happen, earlier on into the season. But you also got to keep in mind that for the re-addition of Harry into this lineup for
Mm-hmm.
Orglis was one that I think caught us by surprise initially, because I think we still kind
Yeah.
of hold Dave as one of the best ARs in the challenger scene, period, overall. And were you going to be able to get a good replacement for him in the mix? Apparently, the answer is yes. And beyond that, I think this is mostly exciting for Josh. Like, he comes off what was, again, largely just a coaching role in the past.
Yeah.
It's been a minute since we've really seen him put together a competitive start to a season that looks like this. I mean, he's been dominating. He's been looking so good. And I'm still like, it's still surprising to say Orglis is a top 2 team in Europe. It's so surprising. But hey, they are. But it's close. I mean, it's literally, it couldn't be any closer. Both of those teams are at 5-2. The next 3 teams below them are at 4-3. And how many map 5s did we see in total throughout
Bro.
this European region? So I don't know. You're happy to be getting out of that knockout group and just getting immediately into
Yeah.
playoffs, because that knockout bracket is going to be insane.
It's gonna be insane. And it just kind of comes back to the fact that we really didn't know what to expect going in towards what these top 8 players, or rather top 8 teams, were going to bring to the table for us. So
Right.
it is really exciting to see some of these guys who were probably overlooked and underestimated be able to say, hey man, we're still the best, we're still making our way towards the top. So very, very exciting stuff here. And yeah, big congratulations to these two guys being able to actually come ahead with a pretty nice record overall. But we move along here, and well, this is what makes things interesting here for us. Who you got, Alan? Who you got? I mean, I want to
Dude,
hear you first before I come through here.
I've got no idea. Like, I have
It's
got
so hard,
literally
right?
no idea. The thing about this region right now is that the teams that are really good in one game mode are usually really bad in others. Like,
Right.
Trainhard is by and far the best control team in this region. And they lost their first control today to Singularity, who up until today was not the greatest control team in the game. Not the worst, but not the best.
Sure.
So I'm a little bit worried about Trainhard overall with their hard
Right.
point and their search especially. I think for teams like Obtained, them and Orglis playing up against for the potential of being that number 2 team today or getting into the top 2. I thought that they have played good hardpoint throughout the season so
Yes.
far, but have really lacked, especially in their search and destroy. This is a long-winded way of me saying I've got no freaking idea. I want to say Rams because they just came off
Yes,
winning
there
that
it
last
is.
cup, and they've been largely the most consistent across all 3 modes. But I don't
Mhm.
know, dude. I've got no clue.
That's exactly where I was going to go. I was going to say Rams, and it's because they have won the recent cup. I want to say they won Cup 5 there as well, right? So they're coming off of a couple wins here for as far as what they've been able to do, and they've just been able to ice up in a lot of game fives, man. Like when the pressure's on, like this
That's
just kind of
good point.
reminds me of like Atlanta phase, like from last year. It's like you better close it out in 4 because you don't want to go to you don't want to go to the last map, man. They're always going to get it, and that just seems to be the case here for us again. And they do have a great S&D lineup, but it's not a lineup you go, damn, like these guys are just going to run over people in S&D,
Right,
but they
right.
make it come together. They make it come together. I've been really impressed with what they've been able to do. Sure, they only finished 5th here out of the 6 teams that are moving on for as far as the
Moving
bracket, but
on.
I think I do have Rams here for us.
Yeah, I have to agree with you. I think just largely because of you actually brought it up, and I didn't realize it until you had brought it up. Like, dude, Rams in Game 5. They've only lost like 1 Game 5 so far, and they've played out of their 7
Wild.
matches. They've played like 5 Game 5s already. It's absolutely unreal. It's probably got to give you some flashbacks like Toronto from last year. A little bit
Oh,
of how
come
many
on
Game
now.
5s. Hey, dude, by the end of the year, that was good for them. They won their home series off in Game 5. You can't complain about it. But getting out of Europe here, just to wrap and kind of go before we get into the knockout stage. What has been your biggest surprise for Europe? And goodness, I don't know how we're going to answer this because there's so many things you can pick from.
You know what, man? I want to say one of these top teams, like I want to say Orglis is probably one of the biggest surprises because they made that change with Harry. So like for as far as like a team that I expected to do poorly and did really well, I want to say
Yeah,
it's
for sure.
Orglis. And then vice versa for a team that I expected to do really well and didn't. I mean, it's got to be House Tarth. I think House Tarth for me is the one that stands out the most, just because I just thought these guys were like the God Squad that was assembled when we were looking at EU rosters for the first time coming in towards Cold War. I just thought that this was the squad that stood out the most to me on paper, and to see these guys finish in 7th, I mean, I'm still not even really fully accepting that.
Yeah, no, I 100% agree with you. It's just been really interesting because for House Tarth, Wee Man was like, wait, we're picking up Wee Man? Like that, like during Cup
Mm-hmm.
4, Wee Man gets inserted into this roster in place of Petey, who I thought was playing pretty darn well. And
Yeah.
obviously, there's something to be said about how he was able to kind of play throughout the last couple of cups and beyond that. But I was a bit surprised by that move. But I'm actually going to go a totally different direction here and say Invidian has been my biggest surprise
Ooh, I
because
like that.
I won't lie, I was one of his biggest critics at the beginning of the year. I was looking
Yeah.
at that Rams roster,
I
I was looking
remember.
at that Heretics roster, and I was like, you're gonna take
Right.
Invidian over literally anybody else that's currently playing for that Heretics roster? Are you kidding me? And today he played lights out throughout the entirety of the
Yeah.
Elite season that we've seen either through our community stream or on stream before. He's played pretty darn well. So he's by far been my biggest surprise because before this year, you would have to go to like the 4th Spanish team to see Invidian play, which is not good news because the Spanish scene up until this really last year was kind of really hurting. I mean, during
Right.
Black Ops 4, you had Heretics, you had Giants, and you had, what's the one that I'm forgetting? Movie Star Riders were like the 3 teams, and I want to say he played for Riders, and they were getting smoked. So I have to give shout outs to Invidian for coming through and playing really damn well this last couple of days.
I like that one. I like that one because we were critical, but
Yep.
New York and Wester, baby. Oh, man.
What the hell is
This
this?
is yeah, this is one where I'm like, dude, like, do we even talk about this? Do we just move on to the next topic? Because it is a little strange, right? Like, I think everyone had it in their minds. Like, I mean, we heard it on broadcast from the casters as well. Like, dude, this is going to a game 5 round 11. Like, that's just the buildup of this matchup. They put it on the last day on purpose because these are certainly the 2 best squads that we currently have within North America. And Wester, man, like they just came through with a really nice map number 1 on Crossroads. I mean, taking that one off of New York, where that's kind of been their comfort zone as well, right?
Yes.
Is something that's been really, really big. I think they put a lot of work and practice into it. And for me, it's like when New York, are able to go up against some of these squads that might be considered a little bit weaker, you see players like Saints, Prolute, Spar, they all have their moments where they can push through and make these insane heroic plays. But I think Wester took really good note of that and did an excellent job of just shutting that down, making sure that there is no one that's going to be able to, come through and get 2 and 3 pieces. Like, they were playing tight on their setups. They were making sure they were always having control of the spawns. Like, they were in control, it felt like, the majority of that game and that series overall. So I am just so impressed with what Wester brought out there for us. And that's it.
It's just so surprising. Like, Wester is
It really
coming
is.
off of 2 previous cups that they have not finished top 8. Like, that's unreal, right? Like, I mean,
Yeah.
that's so surprising when you look at this Wester team overall and you sit there and say, Cup 6, 16th place. Cup 5, 16th place. They sneak past D-Gen during the elite qualifiers. And then all of a sudden they're like, oh, who do we play this week? Oh, New York, so we should probably try, right? Okay, cool, 3-0. Like, and it's like you mentioned, it's not a crossroads hard point that New York has been great. And let's be honest, I mean, even though New York Search and Destroy hasn't been incredible, Miami's been a map that they've played a lot of. Like,
Yeah.
that's a map
sure
that
has.
we have kind of go hand in hand. Like, Search and Destroy, New York's playing, Miami will be in the rotation somewhere. It's just the way that it always goes. So the fact that they were able to look that good on Miami as well, I mean, I was absolutely floored. I mean, without question, the best team that we have in North America. But the funny thing is, their run actually isn't done yet. Like, they actually still
Yeah.
they still have to play a couple of matches. But
Yeah, they do.
It gives us a bit of a shakeup overall with the standings. I'm going to just go back and kind of relate to this specifically on the Codgatepedia because it is important to note. So Wester is up top at 5-0, but like we had mentioned, they still have to play up against UT Crew. So UT Crew's got a position to where they did not play any of their matches this week because of the weather. Team Z, same situation. There's still an opportunity here where we could have a massive like 4-way tie up top, which is unreal considering how this season kind of kicked off with us just saying Western and New York are going to be top 2, no problem.
Yeah, I mean, that's a good way to put it because that's definitely what I think I was thinking for sure. But it does leave us in a spot where, we don't know what is going to end up happening here. I mean, I think the big takeaway is Wester's only dropped 3 maps throughout playing those 5 series so far, which is, very impressive within
Very
itself here for
impressive.
themselves. And one of them was, a game 5 up against Maki where they ended up coming back into it. So those are 2 of your losses right there out of the 3. So, I mean, they have been pretty solid when it comes to prepping for the match, getting set up for playing on stream, off stream, whatever it is. I mean, I don't think they've been too phased where maybe they go towards these cups and they're just not having that same amount of prep that they had on all of the teams at scale because they're only focusing on the top 8, that maybe they're getting upset and surprised by some of these other squads that
Right.
are making adjustments towards the rosters. It is really hard to say, but I think now after seeing what was that matchup, I don't think Subliners gave us everything that they have available to themselves on that squad. So I expect them to bounce back in the future, but I still think that Wester is going to go through the rest of those matches for us, Alan, probably going to finish this flawless. I just think that they are still looking really good. I had doubts, and now I know not to doubt these guys anymore. So this is, I think, my takeaway for these guys, that they are going to be able to close the season out pretty flawless, and they might get, a good competitive map up against
Right.
these next 2 squads here for them. But I still think that they're going to have enough in them to be able to at least take the dubs.
We're going to get exploded on here in a second, but I got to talk about the bottom side of North America as well, because there's potential that we could have 3 teams tied up 1-6.
That is true.
That could potentially influence what exactly happens for who gets relegated versus who doesn't. So that's another really interesting conversation point. And Mr. Midmaps did not look all that great today versus Higher overall, which we don't have that as a talking point, but Higher does secure themselves into the top 6 with their win today. So we're just kind of waiting to determine who will the top 2 overall be and who will the bottom 2 overall be. And there is the potential of a 3-way tie down low, if I'm not mistaken, which, let's be honest, I'm not a very good algorithm situational guy, but I'm pretty sure that's the case. So this is one of those things that you're looking at and you're sitting there saying, there's still so much to figure out. And that brings us to our next point here, where it's going to take us a while to figure those things out, because there is a reschedule for the games that were supposed to happen on Tuesday.
Right.
They should be played tomorrow, but Power does not look like it's inevitably going to be a guarantee it's coming back tomorrow for a lot of the players down in Texas. And the matches that were supposed to be played today will be happening actually on Friday. And again, a lot of those are big impact games here, Visions. I don't know where do we want to take this conversation, but you've got Team Z playing up against Wester. That would have to be a must-win for them if they want to have a chance to try to work their way into the top 2. Then they also play up against Higher and Maki. If Zed plays what they have in the last couple of weeks, those should be wins. That would be the situation where we get another team up top to tie. Then you've also got UT Crew. They've got to play up against Wester, which that could potentially be another matchup where
Right.
that could very well actually send Wester from the top down to fourth, depending on how they play in those two makeup games. And then there are other matchups versus BBG, who needs to win that game to have a chance at getting out of relegations now.
This is just crazy because obviously these guys have the buildup going in towards this, waiting to play their matches, and they can't. So now they get a little bit more time to prep. But I think that, looking at what we have left for us, UT Crew could end up surprising us. I mean, subliners look pretty weak. If you can get yourself a good map pool against them and figure out how to play some of their stronger maps, I think you can really limit this squad
That's
and be
fair.
able to take them down like Wester just did. So, I mean, I have UT Crew actually playing a really tight series against New York, New York Academy here. I think there's a chance that they do actually close that one up and beat them. And then there's a really interesting matchup. I think the other one I'm looking at here is Team Z and Higher, because Higher, they looked pretty solid today.
They played well
Sure, it's
today.
against Mr. Mid Maps, right? I mean, the squad that is really underperforming, not clicking, not coming together. But I think when you look at some of the strategies that they were pulling out in towards some of their games, and their S&D looked really on point on offense, playing these little mind games, making the defense like over rotate towards either side. I was really impressed with what they were doing. And I don't look at that squad and say, damn, these guys are a really good search and destroy team. But I look at that Mr. Minmaps squad on paper out, and I'm like, damn, these guys should be absolutely smoking people in search and destroys, and they aren't. So there is certainly a chance I think Higher is able to pull off a couple of wins here for themselves with this matchup, and then going up. I think that they just play actually this one more. I think that they have a chance at least to be able to take down Team Z, maybe knock them down a peg, be able to put themselves in a spot where they are going to be able to maybe kind of get up, depending on whether or not UT Crew show up or not for us, right?
Right.
So it's a lot of what's going to end up happening, I think, for these final squads, and how much preparation they're going to have going in towards Thursday.
All right, so this next one, I wanted to call it the storyteller seller because rhyming reasons, and I'd like to get clever with graphics like that. But if you were to sell the most notable storyline this year so far in Challengers Elite, what would it be? I'm not gonna lie, I've got no like precognition of what I'm gonna say either. I have not thought about this whatsoever. I just really wanted to use that funny little graphic and put the storyteller seller into the mix. That's literally the only reason why it's part of the show.
I think one of the coolest stories for me personally, throughout both regions, is probably Team Z even getting into the top 8, because they bring on somebody who just no one had even expected or had seen.
First year
Tay comes in and just starts shredding, man. Guy just, makes his name known, and everyone's like, who's this Tay kid? Like, let's start watching him. Like, what's up with him, right? Like, that's where all the eyes start turning. And I mean, you look at that roster as a whole, pretty much up towards all of those cups. I mean, they weren't placing well, dude. Like, top 24s were coming in, like 32s. They just were unable to really break in towards the top 8, which is what everyone's looking at. So the story that I think is just the craziest for me is the squad even making it in towards, the qualifier and being able to get in towards this top 8 here for Challengers Elite, but then also actually hold their own. They're sitting 3-1 right now.
Yeah.
And I know I make kind of an argument that they could end up falling down a couple of pegs and they might not be able to hold that third spot, but there's also a world where they actually turn up and bring things to a different level because they're going so well and because the squad just seems so well formed.
Perfect in search and destroy, that Team Z team so far. 4-0 in searches. That's, again,
It's incredible.
It's incredible. I would say for me, I'm gonna take negative Nancy approaches here. How
Okay.
has this Mr. Midmaps team only won 2 respawns?
Dude, that's a good one.
1 and 9 in hardpoint, 1 and 6 in control. How? How have you done? How have you managed to do that? I mean, I was after they played through the Elite, I was like, oh, this Mr. Midmaps team showing up, playing pretty well. I mean, we talked about it when we were doing that community stream of the Elite qualifiers. That hey, I mean, this team, yeah, their seeding is pretty good, but their placements have not been all that great.
No.
Over the first 5 cups. How have they not figured out the respawn yet, though? I mean, there have been some moments where some of the teams that we've watched have looked really bad in respawn. Like, really, really lost in respawn. But none more than Mr. Midmaps. That is by far my biggest surprise. Because you look at that roster full of guys that, just as of last year, were in the Pro League.
Yeah,
and now all of a sudden, they are struggling to... I mean, the differential is not good. I mean, they're losing hard points on an average of 49 points a game.
Yeah.
So that's no bueno. No bueno indeed. But that's the way that it goes, I guess. That's just... I don't know. I'm still confused by it. Like, I just don't have a good response for it. But winter weather worries. Again, I made this graphic, candidly speaking, before the CDL announced that there will be a postponement of this upcoming weekend's games. So I'm not going to lie here. I don't really know what to say a part of this, but I didn't want to change the graphics. So This is going to be interesting because I'm actually kind of wondering what the schedule is going to be like now when they eventually come around to make that announcement. They said that the games will be
Sure.
postponed. Will they just stack them on top of each other? Will it be like a Monday, Tuesday, Wednesday makeup of this last weekend? And then you're right into Thursday, Friday, Saturday into stage three? Like, do you move everything back a week? I guess I'm just kind of wondering what exactly the CDL is going to do to take actionable steps to make sure these games are made up and still allow teams a chance to kind of digest and go through their normal weekly process.
Yes, I mean, I'm kind of expecting probably just like, a bunch of extra games next week. I think to make up for it is at least my expectation going in towards it. But I mean, at the same time, I guess we don't know. The other factor that I think is interesting about this is teams are going to get a lot more time to be actually
Oh
be able to
yeah,
scrim and practice, dude. Like, I think that's actually the biggest takeaway. Not everyone, I guess, because
yeah, because
there's
people
some
that are
go
without
without
power,
power.
right,
So
right.
I guess not everyone, but there is certainly some squads that will be able to still practice, get some extra reps in, watch some extra VODs, and that's really big for teams that didn't have a great showing in certain game modes. I think the first one that comes to mind, right, is like Optic getting an extra week to be able to work on search and destroy. That's
Yeah,
a big deal, man. That's a lot of time to be able to work on
tons.
some strategies, pick up some things maybe from challengers for as far as implementing that into your own gameplay. So I think that's kind of my big takeaway for as far as the games being pushed back in towards next week for us.
Yeah, I'm wondering about the preparation more than anything else. I mean, at the CDL level, especially, you're not going to figure. I mean, was it Alien that was saying this is the most time I've spent not
Yeah.
playing COD
Oh
in like
God.
in my entire life? Like,
Man wants to grind,
he
dude.
just and that's like it's been like 48 hours. Like he's just like I haven't touched COD in
Oh,
48 hours. Something is wrong. No,
yeah,
I
what's
think
going
the
on here?
preparation thing is going to be the most interesting. I think kind of
Yeah.
discussion point as we go forward because regardless of the teams that don't have power now, if you are into a position to where you are making up those games Monday, Tuesday, Wednesday, and then you're right back to work Thursday, Friday, Saturday, Sunday, preparing for
Right.
those pivotal matchups in week number 3, which could decide where exactly you finish in your group, is going to be really, really big. So, yeah, I'm interested to see kind of what that schedule is going to look like. But as we have that in mind, and because again, all of this was already built out, we talked about this a little bit at the end of our last episode, but now that we're really focusing on week 2 CDL, who do you think as a team needs to have the biggest week 2 when the games do get played?
So I thought this over because I felt like you gave a really good one. And like I'm still in between kind of New York and Florida, but I'm giving a bit of a pass on New York because of all the roster changes that have went in towards the mix. So they don't have to have a great week too, because I still think this team's going to excel over the course of the whole season.
Sure.
It doesn't need to happen immediately. So I think really the biggest one is probably Florida Mutineers because they just got slapped around over Toronto. I spent a lot of time, of course, breaking that one down, figuring out
Right.
what was going wrong. And it really did seem like a lot was off there for that roster, not just because, they weren't winning gunfights, just their overall, I think, like team play and some of their macro decisions that are being called from whoever's making some of the big shot calls here. So I think that they need to give us a showing to say, okay, this was the right choice to make sure that we subbed Havoc out. We brought Neptune in. He's a young talent. He looks great. He had a great opening on the kickoff, but now we're in the season and Neptune didn't do the same thing he did exactly against Atlanta FaZe in that kickoff here.
Right.
So I think there's a lot of eyes on him, a lot of pressure on his shoulders to see if him as well as the team is going to be able to perform here for us in week 2.
Now, I initially had said Toronto last week, right? At the end of our show, that they play Chicago, they go up and they have to play Atlanta immediately after that, 2 days later. That's you go 1 for 1, you're happy about that. But
Yeah.
I'm going to take a different approach to this situation. I'm going to say that the Minnesota Rocker need to have the biggest week number 2 because they come out there and play
Okay.
Seattle, and then a couple of days later they play New York. Now, if you want to be a top 5 team in my mind, you're going to
Got to
have to
beat those
beat
guys.
both of those two teams, and you need to do well
That's
in the
fair.
respawn specifically. Those are teams that are beatable, obviously, when it comes to hard point control right now, but
Right.
you need to show me something better than what you did versus LA Thieves last week because
Yeah.
that was
That's
just
pretty
not great. Yeah, you might sit there and say, but Chef, they beat Dallas. Like they're fine. Yeah, but okay, was that Dallas having an off series more than it was Minnesota playing well? I would argue yes. That's why I think they're my biggest team to watch out for coming into this next week because arguably, if you're able to beat Dallas, you should beat Seattle and New York. And I think the expectations would be you need to beat Seattle and New York if you want to try to get up to the top 2 in that group at the end of it.
Yeah, I think that's good. I like that totally. And I mean, we talk about player to watch now for us for as far as some of these guys in CDL. And I think there's an interesting one here. I'm going to go with player to watch for is going to be Shotzi because
Ooh.
I think that, Shotzi, obviously, rookie of the year, coming off of Modern Warfare, won a chip coming in towards Call of Duty his first time. Like, you could really not ask for better accolades, right? Like, there's a lot of pro players in the scene that would dream to have something like that. But I think with all the hype around him coming in towards this game, he figures out the movement first. He's insane, all of that. I don't think I got a lot of Shotzi out of that matchup that they had against Rocker. And
Fair.
sure, we said could have been an off series. S&D looked a little bit weak. I felt like he held his own, but he wasn't doing the same things that he did, in the last game. And I think it might be, the same kind of story where it takes Shotzi a little bit of time before he's able to do what he did. And that was, exactly what we got during Modern Warfare. It took him about 3 months before he started doing those Shotzi things. So I want to see if that's going to come online a little bit quicker here for us going in towards this. And then I think the other one that I have is Kleenex. I think he's the player to watch for because that's the positive one, right? Like,
Yeah.
Kleenex is just doing some nutty things. He's looking like one of the strongest subs in the game, like just off that matchup alone.
Yeah, no, I think those are two good picks. So my first pick, I'm not going to spend a lot of time talking about it because we talked a lot about him last time. Asim. For New York, you're playing up against the London Royal Ravens. You're playing up against the Minnesota Rocker. If Asim can play like he did last week, that's good news if you're a New York fan, because if he can continue to show up and be that really solid X Factor SMG, that is good news, because LA played really well in that series versus New York. Were there mistakes? Yes, on both sides, yes. But I think Asim is the player that I'm kind of watching to see if New York is going to come away with this weekend 2-0. It'll be largely, I think, on how Asim plays. The other player I'm looking out for is Apathy. He's got a matchup versus Florida, and then he's got a matchup versus Chicago, which, let's be honest, we're not expecting the LAG squad to do much versus that Optic Chicago team, but I think they could at least make things interesting, because Chicago's search and destroy is not exactly strong, and they're still beatable when it comes to some of their respawns. And I think if App can play well, LAG will put him in a position to maybe make it a little bit more interesting than people are figuring. I'm not going to sit there and say they're going to win, but he'll be able to try to make things a little bit more interesting, because that's where I think that LAG team is again going to find a lot of his successes up front as far as what's happening there. I got question time. Do that. Questions.
Let's do it.
Comments,
time.
Concerns?
Question time, baby.
Hey, while we're looking to take questions for you guys here, a reminder that we are giving away the Toronto Ultra CDL team pack. Just off the next thing was, well, you're not going to get a sweater in real life, but you can rep one in game. That's fine. I've been repping this the Toronto Ultra all week this week when I've been playing, because I think they're going to go at least 1-1 this week, if not potentially 2-0. They're my number one team in the game right now. I've been called blasted. I've been called stupid. It's okay. It's my first time watching COD. I have no idea what I'm talking about. But I want to get takes as far as how people think what some of these conversation points would be. And again, exclamation point giveaway. We'll get you a link to that tweet, where you just have to retweet, follow the two of us plus the Defuse, and you're automatically entered for it. So let's take a look here. Zach Clark asks, how many teams would you like to see next season? He says, personally, he would like to say 16, and that's my answer. I would like to see 16.
Yeah. I mean, like, at least 2, right? At least 2. But I think, with 16, you can split then into like 2 divisions like they did this season and have 8 and 8. And I just think that's a solid number to have. So yeah, I'm on the same page with him.
Yep. What player or team is on the hottest seat right now? Ooh. I've got my answer. Do you know what your answer is? I've got at least a team.
On the hottest seat, eh?
Yeah.
I don't know if I do have my answer. You go first, Alan.
I got the Dallas Empire, the reigning champs. They lost to Minnesota. You have to clean out the rest of this competition, at this point in time. Yeah, you're looking at only one matchup next week. They play London. Okay, sure, whatever. Should be a W. And again, for all intents and purposes, they should win this group. It's not a difficult group by our early expectations. So week 3, they play up against New York, and then they close things out last stream of the night playing up against the Los Angeles Thieves. In my mind, Dallas has to win out. This is the reigning champ team. The only thing they did was take away one player to go to 4v4.
Mm-hmm.
So in my mind, I think Dallas is the team that's in the hottest seat for me after their loss to Minnesota.
Yeah, so I think the players, one that I touched on, I think Shotzi and Neptune, I think are really the two that are kind of on the hottest seat for as far as are they going to be able to perform and show up for us. For the team, I think that, Optic is probably one that I think comes to mind for me as well, for as far as a squad that didn't look good in Search and Destroy. I can only imagine, the heat that they got from the fan base, after a 6-0 and a 6-1, right? So that's got to be a pretty hot seat.
Sure.
I think that's probably my takeaway for as far as the two.
That's good. I don't know if I have like a player that's in the hottest seat right now. I think initially if that question was posed to me before the week 1 games, I would have said Gunless. But
Oh yeah,
I think
yeah, I
after
like
his
that one.
performance this last week,
Yeah, he showed us
he's
what's
off the
up.
hot seat. He's now officially put me in the gunless camp, whatever that camp
I
looks
like
like.
that.
Okay, here's a good one. Will the downtime this week for UT Crew and Team Z be more beneficial for them or for their top competition? I can't make an argument if they're not able to play off of the situation currently, meaning that one player is in a position where they're not able to get on their system confidently. I cannot imagine that their headspace is 100% focused on what's coming up in their elite matches. They don't have the time to
Yeah,
scrim. They don't have the time necessarily to go full-on breakdowns. Maybe they're doing some backdoor stuff where they're able to kind of make that work. But if we're
sure.
assuming the worst, I cannot see a world where this time off helps UT Crew or Team Z.
Yeah, I mean, I'm kind of just in a similar boat for as far as the answer. It's just it's so hard, right? We don't know exactly what resources they have, and we can only assume the worst. So I can't assume it's going to help them. If anything, it could honestly make things worse. It could make things frustrating because you're looking
You
forward to
want to
playing
get
the match.
on.
You can't
Yeah,
play con. Yeah, you just want to
absolutely.
play. You want to practice, and I mean that could definitely play a factor for as far as that matchup.
Yeah. I don't know if it necessarily like benefits the people that are playing up against them
Mm-hmm.
really all that much, but it definitely does not help. I don't think UT Crew or Team Z
Mm-hmm.
right now. Because again, they are missing out on that time. I mean, we even saw that video from Attach talking about how scrims are GA'd this week. Like, no one's scrimming. Like, please. Like, if everybody can't scrim, nobody can scrim. So I think that kind of gives
Mm-hmm.
some incentive as far as like the mindset around that overall. NATO getting picked up, Saints getting picked up. I mean, he probably should be.
Yeah, it feels
He's
like
near
he
the
should
top
be.
of my list as far as who's going to
Mm-hmm.
get the call up. He's at the top. Is he officially going to get picked up? It's you can't really make that assumption, but I think that he would have to be on the like if there were to be like a
Yeah.
draft worth of challengers players, he's going first round early right now.
Yeah, I think that's fair. I think Gersh has a good one here too. Does Wester's commanding win tonight put them as the undisputed first place spot?
Ooh,
And this is interesting because going into this matchup, I really did have a slight favor for New York, and I felt like New York was probably going to be the squad that came out in this. And then, I mean, well, obviously we watched the games, and that did not happen
not close.
whatsoever.
Not nope.
So I mean, I would say that it's fair to say yes. I mean, when we're looking at the top eight, we're in the qualifier, right? This is the top eight player, or rather top eight teams. Maybe a couple others could have got in, Allen, that are still playing in these cups and they finished top 16s. I get it, but these are the top eight. This is what they're focused on the most. This is what they're working on. And I think that it's fair to say that they're undisputed number one team currently, with only dropping 3 maps as well.
If I were just looking at the elite season, let's just say that I'm not some all-knowing spreadsheet holding guru of challengers, and I'm just looking at the results from the elite, absolutely. But you don't finish top 8 in 2 straight cups. And with that, it's this conversation to me is like talking about the 13 Golden State Warriors versus the 96 Bulls. You can take the all-time regular season winning record, but if you don't win that championship, you're not the best team to ever touch the NBA hardwood. Now, obviously, this is a little bit of a different situation. It's almost like the opposite here, right? Where you're doing really, really well during, the higher echelon, and then for some reason you're losing to the KC Pioneers. So, undisputed, I have a hard time fully putting both feet on that platform and that podium. But I think that all 10 toes are there right now. Like, I think I would be
I'm
more
jumping on it, Alan.
I would definitely be more willing to take that platform, but it's just you just can't finish 2 top 16s back to back in a cup.
I guess, but like I just think like all their focus is going into it's like they
And
performed
that
so well in the
is,
first
yeah,
4, right?
yeah,
You know what I mean?
yeah,
Like I just feel like it's just split, and they're coming into it just looking for it for its practice. And if they lose, they're like, that's unfortunate. We lost. We can look this back over, but
that's fair.
it's up for grabs. It's up for grabs. I think both sides are fair to debate.
I don't know. I'm like 75% leaning towards I would take that argument as a yes, but me in my cynical mind, I always think about the other side of the coin. So that's the way that
Here's the
goes.
question, Alan. I mean,
Oh.
you're a betting man. If you had to bet on one team to win the whole thing here, I mean, out of the 8 that we have, who you betting on?
Built by gamers. Let's move on. If you missed that show, that's not gonna hit to you. But okay, so let's see here. What do you guys think of the new CDL format instead of there being home series with winners, etc.? I actually am neither here nor there. I liked it
Yeah.
last year. I'm happy about it this year. I was happy about it during the CWL. I just love good Call of Duty.
That's a good way to
I
I
don't
like
know.
that. I mean, I like good Call of Duty too. I mean, there is something I think that I really enjoy, especially watching Call of Duty for a really long time, that I like to see a winner like at the end of the weekend. There was something really nice about seeing this
That
squad came out on
yeah.
top because that's how the MLG events used to work for us, right? I think there's something that really does kind of hold a place there for me. So I am kind of on the fence for as far as this transition into like kind of playing like these season games, playing for points, and then like a buildup of a major. So I don't dislike it. I don't like it. I'm kind of on the fence with it.
Yeah.
It's lots of Call of Duty being played, so I mean I'm always happy about that.
My whole take is there's pros and cons of every system that we've seen in the last 3 years if we were
Sure.
just to look back to Black Ops 4. So I think that, and really, if you're to go behind that, well, I don't want to really count World War II because I'm thinking about this in the franchised era. And even though Black Ops 4 wasn't a city-based franchised era, they still set up the format as how they were going to be playing for the rest of the next year. So
Mhm.
that's kind of where I'm kind of looking at for that. Is Scup as good as he used to be? Yeah. Last question for me. Why do my teammates in league play not know how to play the game well or close to average? That's because you're choosing to play with me.
I'm gonna leave that be.
Hey, so funny story. So Visions gave me a load of shit because I had no rank. It was listing me as competitor, but I was bugged. I didn't realize, but my whole thing was bugged. As soon as I
Whoa.
got,
What?
I was rank
A
0.
load? A load of shit?
Yeah, it was
Come on, it
piled.
wasn't that bad.
It
I
was
wasn't
pretty
like
bad.
shoveling it on.
You weren't actively shoveling it, but like there was enough coal in the fire to make the train go. You know what I'm talking about? Like I got out. Everything reset. I played my one placement match. I'm sitting in elite. I'm sitting top 20 in my league right now in elite, and I barely even touched the game. So
Let's go out.
hanging.
Love that.
I shoot straight sometimes, not often, but sometimes. Last question to take here before we do our giveaway, which, by the way, for tuning in here late, exclamation point giveaway, get on in there.
Yes.
Who would you have as the #1 EU AM team, seen as competitive as ever, and even Rams, who finished 4-3, lost 3 game 5s, also close series. So I guess we've kind of already answered this, but maybe we didn't really definitively say it. Who do you have winning Europe? I mean, we said Rams, but I mean,
Yeah,
is that your
Rams is
number
my
one?
team.
Okay.
It is, yeah. I just think that, yeah, based off that point earlier, I think they've been too good in game fives. I think they've been the most consistent through all the game modes, and they've also won the
Right.
last 2 cups, I'm pretty sure as well. So yeah, I think all my bets would be on Rams. I think taking that entire region.
I think I'm in the same boat, personally. Ooh, thoughts on Illy's slow start to the season? Kickoff tourney aside, he's been the most underwhelming on Empire recently. After kickoff, I was like, Illy is going to be MVP for him. And I still
Mhm.
think that his role that he'll fulfill will allow him to do well. I think it just comes down to getting him activated. I don't know.
Yeah, I just think those guys need time. I mean, I'm not too worried about it. I just think they're all talented, and with Krim, with Rambo Ray as well, helping them at the start of the season. I think they had just an off series. S&D was weak for them. They didn't figure things out. I
Yeah,
think that like him alone, he wasn't the problem they lost. I think that was like
agreed.
a whole team thing that was really a struggle for them.
All right, let's do the giveaway. Again, last
Yes.
chances to get in. If you haven't already, we're going to pull it here in a moment. You got to retweet that initial tweet on exclamation point giveaway. Follow the Defuse on Twitter. Follow Visions on Twitter. Follow myself on Twitter. And you're in. You're good to go. You can be repping some Toronto swagger in game. Good stuff, man. I'm not going to lie. I do love that shade of purple. Very bright. I'm not going to lie. There are
Nice.
times I see myself on the kill
Pop to
cam
it.
and I go, I am sticking out like a sore thumb right now in this purple, but at least I still look good
I look
doing it.
good.
Still look good doing it. You want to pull it this time, or should I pull this time? What do you want to do?
I pulled it last time, Alan. It's your turn to pull,
All right,
and I'll
fair
give you
enough.
the
Okay.
yeah. You do the whole close your eyes thing. I'll give you the
Yeah.
stop, the 1, 2, 3 stop. I guess. Yeah.
Yeah.
Let me know when you're ready.
Oh,
Are you
it
good?
looks like Vortex and Kush are trying to get in the last second. So
Oh, we're trying to get in.
we're
We'll
gonna
give 'em
give them a total of about 45 seconds.
I think
Give
Kush
them.
is in. Kush
Okay.
is in. He's good. I want to say, so we're just waiting on Vortex.
Okay. We'll give him a second here before we jump on into it. Reminder though, with the CDL moving, I guess this is probably an important time for us to say it. We will not be back on Friday and Sunday because we'll have nothing to
Right.
talk about. So we're gonna put a skip to that. If you missed any of this show, it will be uploaded onto YouTube, and then beyond that, the audio of it will be put to Spotify, iTunes, and Google Podcasts. So if you enjoy the show, we try to get it done. We try to do the main content of the show in 30 minutes. We let it go to about 45 largely. So we try to get it more often and a little bit less as far as the overall time that's there. Looks like Vortex did get in. Okay, so
that's good.
Let me jump on over. I am on the retweet section. Okay, go ahead and hit me with
All right. 1, 2, 3, stop.
Okay, and now, oh, wait. I gotta scroll up a little bit because I'm at the very bottom. Okay, okay, now I'm moving the mouse.
1, 2, 3, stop.
The winner is Dave _CDL. It's like Dave the player, but with an A instead of the Q. I'm gonna go ahead and throw his over to you, so you make sure he's following both of us. I'm pretty sure he is. He retweets a lot of my stuff.
Yeah,
lately, so
I think he's good.
Okay, there it is. Just in case.
I will check. Just to be sure.
But I'm already ready to.
Yeah, we're good.
We're good. All right, congratulations to Dave. Big hand, round of applause all the way through. Big round of applause all the way through. So that's gonna be Toronto Ultra Pack that gets given away to him. I mean, I don't even know, what do we want to do for this long week? We could, I mean, I'm not gonna sit here and say it, but we could farm some impressions this week by whatever pack we want to do next. I'm just gonna say the social influence is great.
Yeah, we could. Oh wait, I picked the last one here. So we got a whole week, right? So
we got a whole week. I'm thinking we go Dallas Empire.
Okay.
And how do we want to do a giveaway? Do we do it on a Gleam link this week? Do we do it on retweets again? Let's do a Gleam link this week. We're gonna do a Gleam link, so it's gonna be out there for a while. We'll again just keep an eye on all of our Twitters, and you'll find it out there. But that's the show. I feel like we were like short, but we weren't. So
yeah, that's not too bad.
We
talk.
An hour. Talk.
We like to
talk a lot.
Call of Duty's great.
Call of Duty's great. Call of Duty's wonderful. Final thoughts from you, Visions?
Hey man, I mean, I don't know what's going on in the European region for challengers. I don't know what's going to happen next week with the extra week as well, for as far as the CDL teams being able to, some of them getting more practice. There's a lot up in the air, and NA could still completely shake up for us with Thursday and Friday. So it's really hard to kind of, say this is the squad I think that's going to be, here, and here. There is just so much open, and it's just coming back to the fact that, hey man, like we got so much talent in the tier 1 scene and the tier 2 scene, and it just makes it so enjoyable.
It is enjoyable. Hopefully you guys enjoyed your time here as well. But until the next time that we come back and try to defuse this bomb, make sure that your fuse does not fizzle out. So long.